Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do my March wrap-up. March was an incredibly difficult month for me, but I did read some really great reads. So we'll start, as we always start, with some statistics. My favorite time of the video. I prefer to talk about statistics over the way I felt about certain books. But alas, here we go. In the month of March, I got to 11 books, and that came out to a total of 5,389 pages in total, which rounds out to about 174 pages per day, well above my 100 pages per day goal. So very happy about that. And in terms of hours listened, I've been listening more and more to audiobooks while I read. It's just helping me get through reading because I cannot concentrate without an audiobook or reading sprints. I don't know who I became. I can't read books without those things. So I read a total of 105 hours. It's not all of the books, but definitely some of them. In regards to the ratings, I read 1 5-star book, 5 4-star books, 4 3-star books, and 1 2-star books, 0 1-star, 0 DNF. So that's really great. And that averaged out to about a 3.63 average star rating. Then we'll get into the smaller statistics. In regards to the author identity, I read from 8 female authors and 3 male authors. For the age range, I read 4 adult books, 3 YA books, and 4 middle grade books. March is middle grade March, so I definitely tried to tackle some of my middle grade TBR. And then in regards to the format of the book, I read 4 on audio, 2 on ebook, and 5 on physical. But of course, the audio and physical numbers can kind of shift depending on which version of the book I prioritize. In the month of March, you could find a lot of content for some of the books I read this month. So I will just be letting you know where to go for that stuff. The first of which is Secret Machines Chasing I always mess up the title of this book. Secret Machines Chasing Shadows by Tom DeLonge and AJ Hartley. I did an entire dedicated reading vlog to this book, and I will leave it linked up above if you would like to watch it. Of course, like with most months, the Rick Riordan book for the month, The Red Pyramid. This is the start of the Kane Chronicles, and I, of course, have a dedicated vlog as well as some reading sprints if you would like to follow along with the reading journey. That content will be linked up above. And of course, for the Kiss and Tell book club last month, we read Teach Me by Olivia Dade. I will leave a link to the live show to that in the comments below because it was on my friend Zoe's channel. All of these books were pretty enjoyable for the month of March. So if you would like any further details on how I felt about them, you can of course click the links that I mentioned. So now we'll get into the books that don't have any sort of content associated with them. We're going to start out with Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Front Desk follows a young girl named Mia Tang, and Mia has a lot of secrets. Her first secret is that she lives in a motel run by her parents. The second secret is that at this very motel, her parents hide some of their family members, some members of their community, and if the hotel owner finds out, the Tangs will be doomed. And then the third secret is that Mia really wants to be a writer, but her mom feels like she should stick to math because English is not their first language. It will take all of Mia's kindness and courage to get through the entire year. So I read this in one sitting. I absolutely love the experience of reading this book, and it is definitely because Mia is such a fantastic character to follow. I really appreciated that Mia always stood her ground for whatever decision that she was going to make, but I also really enjoyed and appreciated that Mia made mistakes in the book as well. I think it's really important for younger readers to see a character who still makes mistakes but works hard to fix them and better herself and help where she can. The novel also surrounds themes of racism and classicism that was told in a really easily digestible way for those younger readers while also balancing it with the realities that these kids face. The author's note in particular is something that I think of when I talk about these types of themes. It impacted me so much to learn that Mia's character was really based on Kelly Yang's life and her personal experiences. It was a really great read overall. I definitely think it's super easily digestible, very quick, very fun. I highly recommend it, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. Then I picked up Eva Evergreen's Semi-Magical Witch by Julie Abe. This came as a recommendation from Tammy over at Tammy Tries to Read. She had read this in one of her vlogs and really enjoyed it, so I was like, I need to pick it up. Eva Evergreen is determined to reach novice rank in her witchcraft because if she doesn't reach it by the time she is 13, she will lose her power forever. The only problem is that Eva only has a pinch of magic, and when she lands in the seaside town of Oteri, a lot of the people in the community are expecting this really powerful witch and not this semi-magical girl. So Eva, along with some of her friends, set up this plan to prove Eva Evergreen's magical capabilities. This was so cute and wholesome. It really put me in like such a warm spirit. Eva was such a great main character. I loved how the narrative of the novel followed Eva's journey while trying to become a witch, and showing that with that determination comes finding one's own confidence, making friends, and just learning to love the skills that you have, that you're born with. Like with front desk, I think is a really important theme and message for younger readers. The character of Eva is just a wonderful person and a wonderful friend, and it felt so warm to be reading from her perspective and how she was willing and able to help the town in any sort of way. I love the theme of friendships and how Eva was ready to help any individual, even if they weren't their friend, even if they weren't the nicest person to her. She's just a really great character, and I think you really root for her since page 1. Of course, I loved this little animal companion in the book. Ember is just so funny and so pesky, which is exactly what I was expecting, what I wanted to read. In general, this just had everything I really enjoy in middle grade books. And I think it's a great one if you're looking for a cute, wholesome, younger grade fantasy. And I ended up giving this 4 stars. It was really, really fun. After that, I read a middle grade that I didn't so much enjoy as the other ones. Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This first book follows a telepathic girl named Sophie who has never quite fit into her life. She definitely doesn't belong. She skipped grades. She is like this prodigy. One day Sophie meets this young boy named Fitz, and she learns that she is not alone. He is also a telepath, and it turns out that the reason Sophie felt like she never belonged in this world is because she doesn't. So just a preface, I know that this is a really popular series. I know a lot of people like it. I'm definitely not the target audience, one, because I am a 30-year-old woman, but also I know a lot of people just really like this series, really like the characters, and it was just not for me. So please do not be mad at me. But that being said, I had a lot of issues with this book, and it made me want to pull each individual eyelash off of my eye, probably over 15 times in 400 pages, and I don't know how I would even have eyelashes left. And if you've read this book, you know what I'm getting at. I think my main issue of this book is just that I am far more of a character-driven reader than I am a plot-driven reader. So when I don't really enjoy the main characters, I find it difficult to enjoy the overall plot. So reading this book and being incredibly annoyed with the main character was not going to go well. The chosen one trope in this book is definitely hammered into you from page 1. So we just make sure that we all know that Sophie is good at everything, that she is a prodigy, and she's just so different from everybody else, but also everybody also likes her once she enters the world where she belongs. It just felt like there were no stakes in this novel once Sophie entered the other world, without getting into spoilers. Every time something bad happened or Sophie did something illegal, which happens more often than you think, I knew she was gonna be okay and everything was gonna be okay because she's just so special. The world building is quite weak in the novel. Even the magical school part, which I usually love in books, was so boring because Sophie was so good at everything, and every day is filled with Sophie thinking she's better than everybody else, and her one fatal flaw, the one thing that she is bad at, is alchemy. And so thankfully we have one issue in the book that can't be resolved. I had so many problems with this book that this review would just be long and redundant. I had a lot of issues with the pick-me attitude that Sophie had. I had a lot of issues with one entire race of beings in this world choosing to be servants. I think that was really weird and such a weird throwaway comment. I did finish this in 2 days because it was easy to read, and even though it's really thick, I had no problem getting through the pages, so I guess that's a positive. But needless to say, I will not be continuing this series. I really did not enjoy this. I will be unhauling it soon. I ended up giving this 2 stars. It just wasn't for me, but it could be for you, because like I said, a lot of people enjoy this. I am the minority. I feel weird hating this book when everybody loves it. Then after that, I got into my ARC era, the ARCs I had to read for the month of March. The first of which was Immortality, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. I buddy read this with my friend Lucy, and we kind of both feel a little bit the same about this book. Basically, this is the second book in a series and follows a young girl named Hazel. Hazel is someone who is infatuated by surgery, by helping people. And in the first book, she figures out a way to attend medical school and learn how to be a doctor. She also meets this young boy named Jack, who is a resurrection man. So what that means is that at the time, in order for them to study bodies and surgery and stuff like that, they had to kind of operate on corpses. And because Hazel is trying to study, trying to understand, she needs corpses, and so they develop this friendship, loveship type of situation, and obviously the story continues from there in this book. So as with the first book, I really went into this knowing that I would enjoy the main characters and the overall charm that Dana Schwartz has in her writing and infuses into her novel. The themes in this one, I think, were really spot on for the current political climate. Not once did those themes feel like they were hammered into me or deterred from the overall plot of the book, but I feel like they just added to what Schwartz was bringing forth with her novel. I think sometimes sequels can lack the charm that allowed you to fall in love with the first book, but as soon as I opened the first page of this, or rather like clicked on the first page of this book, I fell right back into the world, and that is due to Schwartz's, I think, really captivating writing style. That being said, I did have some issues with the way that the novel ended, and I think Lucy would agree with me that it ended on a very strange situation. I think the first book integrated science and immortality in an interesting way that felt more mysterious than anything else. In this one, it just felt really silly, and without going into spoilers, like there's only so much I could say, but just the ending was just, it felt so silly. It's still a fast and fun read, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, and I just cannot wait to read what Dana Schwartz puts out next. After that, I read a short arc called Enter the Body by Joy McCullough, and this is basically a play type narrative that follows Shakespeare's female characters once they are removed from the stage, or essentially the plot in Shakespeare's plays. It is both written in the iambic pentameter style and also regular narrative style. I think it was a really interesting experimentation, and I really enjoyed or appreciated the idea and concept of what Joy McCullough was trying to do with this book. The initial setup of Shakespeare's characters falling into this hole under the stage, once they have been utilized to further the play's plot, was very clear in its intent. And I think McCullough did a really great job with that because she really captured Shakespeare's style with the iambic pentameter. It was effective, and I realized right away what this novel was trying to do and how it was looking to discuss how the female characters are just kind of there to further the plot and tropes of the Bard's plays, and then kind of being cast away to the side without really having the opportunity to tell their own sides of the story. And although it starts out pretty charming at first, I think it really starts to fizzle out towards the end of the novel. I do still think it was like an interesting book to read and an interesting book to think about. And even as like I'm talking and when I was writing my review, I was faced with this kind of conundrum of dealing with the fact that I too am judging these girls for just wanting to tell their own stories, and who am I to really judge them on writing their own endings. And I think that that was really clever of Joy McCullough because it's basically the entire thesis of the novel. Also, I want to mention that if you were planning to read this, I would definitely recommend the audiobook. I think the iambic pentameter is easy to read when it's being spoken to you, and each individual character in the book has their own voice actress, and I think that that really worked to bring the individual characters to life. I ended up giving this a 3 stars, but I am looking forward to reading anything Joy McCullough publishes from here on out. And the last arc I read for the month was The Witch and the Vampire by Francesca Flores. This is comped as a Rapunzel retelling. It basically follows 2 young girls named Ava and Kay. They used to be best friends until a couple of years ago when vampires came in from the forest to destroy their town. And in the ensuing attack, Kay's mother was killed and Ava was turned into a vampire. 2 years later, we are shown that Ava has been kept in a tower by her mother because her mother is also a vampire and needs Ava for her witch powers. Did I also forget to mention they're witches? Because this plot is so convoluting. Yes, they are also witches. Ava is an earth witch and her mother turned her into a vampire. I still don't understand why, but because Ava turned before she was an adult, she's allowed to keep her witch powers. So her mom has to suck her blood in order to take the earth power so that she can still pretend that she is a witch. Kay is also a fire witch, and the fire witches are there to be bodyguards of the forest so that the vampires that are also in this world don't get into the town, which clearly didn't work the year that Ava was turned, but I digress. I don't really have much to say about this book because, like, as you could tell from the plot, it was just okay. A lot of the problems that I have with the novel really stems from the fact that it was a lot of telling and not really showing to readers. A lot of it just felt a little stale. I think the main characters were really interesting, and I think what had happened to them to make them separate was really interesting. And I would have loved to see their relationship develop more. I would have loved to see them develop more as individual characters. I found their like wants and needs to be told to us, but I don't really feel like they embodied what we were told that they wanted. Similarly, I thought that the world and the magic system surrounding witches versus vampires to be really interesting, but a lot of that background was just told and not really shown, so it's a lot of like sentences here and there to kind of explain the relationship between the two magical beings. What I did appreciate about this system of separation of these magical beings was the discussion around having black and white ideology, and I found that the characters did grapple with that throughout the book, and I think that it was interesting for them to have dealt with that thinking and understanding what they have been taught throughout the book, but I don't think it was as discussed enough as I think it should have been. At the end of the day, I do think that this novel could have used a couple more round of edits to really solidify the bones of what I think could have made a really interesting novel. So I think Francesca Flores has a lot of potential for future books. I ended up giving this 3 stars. The cover is absolutely beautiful, and I would still recommend it if you're looking for a simple sapphic fantasy romance. At the same time as I was reading all of these books, I was also reading this behemoth, Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 3rd book in the Stormlight Archive series. I always find it very difficult to talk about what the Stormlight Archive is about. How do I describe this? I don't know how to describe the Stormlight Archive. So I'm going to look up how to describe it because I never have a good response. This series takes place on a world adapted to frequent unidirectional hurricanes which sweep over the continent every other week. It is about a young man slaved and broken, about a woman who can't escape the lies she built around herself, about a general who were revered but disillusioned after his brother, the king, is assassinated, and about an assassin who follows orders even though he knows it's wrong. I think that's a great description of what the Stormlight Archive is. Actually, thank you, Reddit. So I'm not going to get too much into my thoughts in this book because it is the 3rd book in a series, but not only that, we are now like 3,000 pages into character development and plot and everything happening with the series. It feels sacrilegious to not give a Stormlight Archive book 5 stars. This is definitely the lowest one for me, which isn't that low, but like whatever. I love the characters and I love the world that Brandy Sandy is creating with this series. Obviously, it's really intricate and fascinating, and I don't think I need to mention that his writing I absolutely adore. A lot of people don't like Brandon Sanderson's prose, but I really do, and I really liked that we had past chapters and growth for Daddy Dalinar. That being said though, I was really confused with the ending of the book. I had to watch several summaries to fully understand what happened in the last 300 pages. I could not visualize what was happening. It was super confusing to me, and I did not understand like what was being revealed to us. I really just had to watch summaries to like fully understand, fully grasp what I was reading. Now that I understand what had happened, I'm obviously very excited to continue in the series and see how our characters move from here on out. Also, I loved Wit in this book. One of his main moments with another main character, I absolutely adored. I loved that scene a lot. I'm very excited. Hopefully Wit is more in Rhythm of War. I'm so excited to continue. I ended up giving this 4 stars. So not the 5 stars I expected it to be, but still really good. And then I was feeling really down in the dumps at the end of the month. I was sad. I wasn't liking the Daisy Jones and the Six show that I was really looking forward to. So I just decided, why don't I read the book? Why don't I tab and write notes about every aspect of this novel that I love? So did I buy, first of all, a new copy of Daisy Jones and the Six to be tabbed? Yes, I did. don't ask questions. This is my third time reading the book. So basically, if you don't know, which I would be shocked if you don't, this is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this book follows a band called The Six, led by Billy Dunn. Billy Dunn and his brother and their band moved to California in order to start making a name for themselves and try to make it big in the music scene. At the same time, Daisy Jones is also looking to start her career. She wants to be her own musician, and their paths cross when they make a single and see skyrocketing success. Obviously, like, so much more happens in this book. I'm obsessed with this book. I love this book so much. I don't know what else I can add. I will leave a link if I can find it of the review of the first time I read this book, because I'm just going to reiterate what I said there. I loved the interview style of the book. I absolutely love the characters. I love the themes. I love the 70s rock and roll feeling of the book. I love that when you're reading this book, you feel like these are real characters, that these are real musicians, that you can listen to the music, and now you can, and that be still my beating heart, because I definitely did that while reading this. The audiobook is fantastic. I will recommend that every time I talk about this book. I think it is the way to go. I love this book with every fiber of my being. The show wishes it was this book. The unreliable narration. I just love the techniques used in the book. I just love it. I gave it 5 stars. I think that's obvious. I highly recommend it. I don't think it's for everyone. Not everybody likes it. But don't come to me with any Daisy Jones slander. I don't want to hear it. And that's it. Those are all of the books I read in the month of March. Let me know down below how you feel about these books. Did you read any of them? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, I tell you every time, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It makes me feel wonderful and does wonders for my channel, and I just appreciate it so much. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will just see you next time. Okay, bye!